everybody, my name is Gary, and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be discussing the books that I almost DNF'd in 2026 so far. So not DNFing books is kind of a reader toxic trait for me. I think part of me just really wants to see the dumpster fire through. And also I do a lot of bookmarks challenges on Goodreads, so I feel that if I DNF the book and I don't finish it, and I earn the bookmark anyway, I'll feel like I cheated. And there's also that feeling afterwards of like, wow, I'm free from this. Finally, I'm so excited. So I think maybe it's like a sense of accomplishment as well. Of like, wow, this book was really bad and I had a really hard time reading it, yet I finished it anyway. Congratulations. You won the Trauma Alert Award. So in this video, we're going to be discussing what almost made me DNF a book, which means we're going to be going into We're going to be going into book spoilers. So if you haven't read any of the books on this list that I'm going to be discussing and you don't want to be spoiled about it, I suggest you skip ahead to the other books on the list. So the first book this year that almost made me want to quit it entirely was Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevlin. I picked up this book for a Goodreads book challenge. I was like, oh cool, it's about two video game developers. I like video games, let's give it a shot. And then I started reading the book, and I realized that it was taking me a long time just to get through a chapter. And the chapter wasn't necessarily all that long. I was just sitting there thinking about other things that I could be doing, and it kept distracting me. So I ended up having to turn to the audiobook for this. And the audiobook is just not good either. The person who is narrating it sounds like a robot. The characters also don't mesh with each other, like they hate each other for 90% of this book. This book is marketed as friends making a video game together, and the friends hate each other. What is going on here? And don't even get me started on the character of Dove. Oh! So Dove is Sadie's college professor, and he ends up having an inappropriate relationship with her. Like, wildly inappropriate. Dove is married with a child back in Israel. And that's also another contentious point for people, is that Dove is an Israeli, but that's neither here nor there for right now. He manipulates and coerces Sadie into having a sexual relationship with him. Now, mind you, Sadie is 18 to 19 years old at this time, and Dove is in his 30s to early 40s. And then he dumps her to go back to his wife. He dumps her to go back to Israel to be with his wife. Like, oh, okay, thanks for the fun times. I'm gonna go home now. Bye. What? I beg your finest pardon, sir. So then Dove ends up coming back to the city a few years later, still married, still with his wife, still a creep. And Sam knows that Dove used to be Sadie's professor, so he asks if Sadie could ask her old professor if they could use his dungeon.
Oh my god.
I mean, that's almost kind of correct to what he does, but his graphics engine asks if he could use his graphic engine for the video game they are making called Ichiro. And Sadie just falls back into having a romantic relationship with him in order to get the engine, and then gets mad at Sam about it afterwards. Like, girl, you didn't have to do all that. He just asked for your graphics engine. He didn't ask you to jump back in bed with him. What the hell? I was screaming at the audiobook. Screaming! Oh my god. And then they had this whole, like, office shooting thing that happened later on, and it felt really weird and foreign, and then the rest of the book just didn't feel the same after that, and I just felt like I was like army crawling to the end. And then when I finally did finish it, I remember screaming out loud like, oh, thank god I'm free. And my partner heard me upstairs, and my partner was like, oh, what happened? I'm like, I'm free. Oh my god, I'm free. Oh my god, I'm so happy. That was the day that I learned that Goodreads book challenges don't always feature really good books. So the next book that I almost DNF'd this year was A Drop of Venom by Sanji Patel. I hope I pronounced her name correctly. This one was also for a Goodreads bookmark challenge. It's the retelling of the Medusa story, but with Indian customs added to it. So I'm not going to talk too much about this book because this book absolutely broke my spirit and made me very sad. I had to seal myself off and make myself numb to read this book. And that's also why I didn't want to finish it at certain points. It features a lot of violence against women, and the plot line is just very all over the place and very confusing at times. Manisha also feels like she's doing a lot of good when at the end of the day she has inadvertently made people's lives worse. And the character of Pratyush is I think that's how you say his name. Oh god, if I screw up the names, I am so sorry. He has a lot of moral superiority for helping one time and then not helping any other time after that. He helps a child who is about to get hurt by a fellow soldier, and then he has like this big thing where he beats the crap out of the soldier who's about to hurt this child. And then any other time, he's like, oh, well, not my business. Sorry, I got other things to do. I have to follow after this snake woman who's turning people to stone. Have fun. And it's like these women are in danger and they're about to die, and he just doesn't care. He's just more interested in his mission. And the end of the book makes no sense. Like, I'm super happy that the big bad guy, he got what was coming to him, but other than that, like, I had no idea what was going on at the end, and I was like, okay, are her sisters dead? Is she dead? Is everybody dead? Has people been dead this entire time? Am I dead? I don't know. I was very confused, but at the same time I was like, oh, thank God it's done. I don't care. It doesn't have to make sense. It's done. That's it.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Yes. Hallelujah.
So the next book that I wanted to DNF in 2026 while I was reading it was Stuck on You by Ali Hazelwood. This is the second book in the STEMinist novellas. Oh my god, girl, this book was so bad. So bad. So it follows the story of this girl named Sadie and her friend group. The other two friends are featured in the other novellas. Now, their stories aren't too bad. It's just this one that is a complete and utter dumpster fire. So this book features like a really janky plot structure. It goes forward and backwards in time. The beginning of this book starts with Sadie stuck in an elevator with Eric. And she hates this man. Like, she hates him with a burning passion. Like, she wants this elevator to plummet down to the ground without her in it, but him in it still. Like, she is so angry at this dude. And then it goes back in time to when they first met each other on the way to work one day. I'm not kidding. They meet arguing over who gets the last scone at a really crappy bakery. Like, who gets the last scone? They're arguing over it. He gives it to her, and then she's just like, okay, well, I feel bad. And he's just like, well, you should go out to dinner with me tonight. And so they do. So then they have dinner, and they go back to his apartment, and he takes it as they're about to go to the Bone Zone, and he gets fully naked. And she freaks the hell out. As any normal person would do who, goes to a guy's apartment, and the guy just automatically just gets butt-ass naked. And he, gets, upset that she's not getting naked herself. He's like, well, why are your clothes still on? Mine are off. Dude! What the hell? Sir, read the room. I'm gonna need you to read the room. And Allie tries to be like, well, he's European. She tries to explain that he's European, so that's why he gets naked. It's like, no!
That is not correct.
But after that awkwardness ends, she does end up going to the Bone Zone with him. And then the next day, she finds out that he is working for her rival company that she works for. And so she thinks that he is going to give out, secret espionage, secrets of business and stuff, so she doesn't like him anymore. And she has decided that she hates him, and she blocks his number. So now they are stuck in an elevator together, and somehow they get out of the elevator, and then they decide that they don't hate each other anymore, and then they go back to the Bone Zone, and then the story ends, and it makes no sense. And you could tell that this was, like, the weakest story, because when Allie goes back to it in, like, the other novella where Eric shows up, he's just, like, there in the background. He doesn't really give any input or anything. He doesn't really say anything. He's just kind of just there in Hannah's story, and it's so funny because he's so it's like, who gets naked like that without, like, consent? Who does that? Why? It's so gross. So the next book that I wanted to DNF, and the last book that we're going to be discussing today, is Mate by Ali Hazelwood. I also read this for a Goodreads bookmark challenge, but it was on my TBR before the bookmarks challenge was, because I really, really, really like the concept of vampires and werewolves, and I have read copious amounts of fanfiction that feature the alpha and omega trope, so I was fully invested in this book, and I truly, truly, truly loved Bride. Bride was a 5-star read for me. Bride was the book before this one. So when I read this one and I didn't like it, I was heavily disappointed. So the one thing that didn't make it for me was that I knew exactly what was going on. I knew what was going on with Serena. I knew she was going through heat. And I knew that the initial doctor's, like, diagnosis was wrong. I knew that. I called that immediately. So automatically the pacing of this book is off because I'm just waiting for it to be revealed. And it doesn't get revealed until past the 75% mark. So it's just a lot of Serena ruminating, thinking she's gonna die, you know, Cohen being an asshole, and just, like, wondering who her parents are, and, like, even that is kind of really super out there and known, because you kind of think, like, well, they're talking about Constantine a lot, like, he has to be somewhat involved in it, and it's just, like, I don't know, it was like, I was bored. I was just sitting there making a grocery list for myself, thinking, you know, like, oh, you know, do I want chicken tonight? Do I want rice? Do I want mac and cheese? What do I want? I don't want to read this book, though. I don't want to read it, but I'm reading it anyway because I want to finish it, because I have to have that sense of accomplishment. And also there's this like, scene where Cohen is explaining that he has a celibacy agreement with the Pax leaders to where he cannot be with anybody sexually. He's not allowed. Like, in a romance book, get out of here. Shut the door. That ain't happening. That's getting broken. Absolutely not. That's not happening.
No, ma'am.
So what they do is they end up having one person know what's going on, because Serena's about to go into heat. She's about to, like, explode if she doesn't get down and nasty with Cohen. So they end up going off into, like, this secluded area where nobody else knows what's going on, and they go and they do it. And nobody knows about it. But somehow people know about it. The council, I guess, knows about it. Maybe they can smell it. I don't know. And then, like, how they, like, swipe it under the rug, it's just like, oh, well, we decided that we didn't like that anymore, and we agreed that it was okay for him to be with somebody. And it's just, like, there wasn't any, like, official meeting or anything. It was just kind of told to Serena afterwards, like, oh, he's your mate, so it's fine. It's fine. He's your mates. It's fine. It's like, this needs to be shown, not told. There's a lot of showing. There's a lot of telling, but there's not a lot of showing in this book, and it gets so frustrating. Like, so frustrating. And I went into this book with, like, a lot of hope, because I loved Bride. So I was like, okay, cool. This is Serena's story. Let's hear it. And it just went nowhere for, like, 70% of the book, and then when the action happened, we didn't necessarily see a lot of it. We just saw some of it, and then it was explained to her later when she woke back up again, and it's like, what? Where's the payoff? Where's the payoff? I don't know. Wow, that was really actually pretty cathartic, and I got out a lot of stuff. I didn't think I was gonna talk that much, but I'm really excited if you guys made it this far in the video. If you're still watching, feel free to leave. I just said feel free to leave. Feel free to leave. Get out of here. I don't want you here anymore. Feel free to hit that like button and leave a comment on any of these books if you've read them, if you feel the same way that I do. And don't forget to subscribe as well, so then that way you can watch more videos of my content. I will be posting another one of these, I think, because I do have some more books that I almost DNF, so stay tuned if you want to watch the rest of those. My name is Gary, and I hope you have a good night, I hope you have a good day, and happy reading!